joined now for our weekly talk with Alex Newman, our international correspondent. Alex, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Duke. It's great to be with you.
Well, here we go. Right now, we watch as the slippery slope becomes an avalanche. In New Jersey now, they're about to pass a bill. They're considering passing a bill that would require every public school in the state to only buy textbooks for any subject that have been on an approved list by LGBTQ activists. So, hey, you're a local district in Piscataway and you need math books for your kids in 8th grade, and you can't buy any math textbook that doesn't have considerable approval by radical activists for the LGBTQ movement.
It sounds so ridiculous, Duke, and yet that is exactly what is happening. This piece of legislation is unbelievable. It would order the State Department of Education to maintain a database where all of the textbooks that are approved by the state are contained, and to get on the list of approved textbooks, it has to highlight and positively encourage diversity and inclusivity and all the rest of it. And then as you read a little bit further into the definition of diversity and inclusivity, you see gender identity, sexual orientation, all the rest of it. So even in like a math textbook, you got to have lots of pictures of transgender, drag queen children, all the rest of it to be able to get on this list. Incredible stuff happening. There is a lot of opposition. In fact, I got emails from 3 different grassroots organizations in New Jersey that we've worked with in the past. They all bombarded their senators with emails. And so for now, it looks like the bill has been put on hold. Actually, we put out our article Monday. That was when they were originally supposed to consider it. For now, it's on hold. But as the activists told me after this, they're planning to come back eventually. We cannot let down our guard.
Well, that's it. Whenever the Republicans or conservatives or Christians manage to stall a bill, they haven't killed it. The progressives are perfectly willing to step back, wait 6 months, and put it forward again. Wait for a more advantageous time. Donald Trump is out of office. Joe Biden's in. Department of Education changes from one that is paying close attention to what states are doing to one that wants every progressive measure possible implemented, and you see where we stand. But here's my question. It really does show you the power that the LGBTQ lobby has gotten here, that they can even make these demands. Clearly, at this time and place in the country, the Black Lives Matter crew, right, the race warriors, the race social justice warriors, they have a much bigger platform and a much bigger megaphone. So why not then them? I mean, we're not going to let you use your 4th grade math book until it's gay friendly. We're not going to let you use 4th grade math book until it's also Black Lives Matter friendly. We're not going to let you use your 4th grade math textbook until it's also trans sensitive. We're not going to let you use your 4th grade math textbook until it is got a Latinx base to it as well. If you grant one of these special intersectional left-wing progressive groups, if you grant one of them this boon, don't you, by definition, have to grant it to them all?
Yeah, except, of course, Duke, and you know this just as well as I do, how many pictures of traditional families with the wife in a nice dress and the little daughters with their braids and how many of those families do you think are going to be in these textbooks with a mom and a dad and maybe 4 or 5, 8 kids? I guarantee you the number will be zero because they're not interested in actual diversity. They're interested in shoving their political and social agenda down people's throats by any means necessary, including using the coercive power of the state, including using our tax money to propagandize our children. That's what they're interested in. They're not really interested in diversity, or maybe they'd include a conservative from time to time, maybe a Christian.
I can see the math problems already. 4 drag queens enter into 3 adult bookstores. Right? That's what it's going to have to be. What else can you do? I mean, you're going to have to literally go and have the propaganda from all of these intersectional left-wing radical progressive groups taking up all the oxygen in the math textbook. It is pretty scary when you stop and think about it. So what was the pressure in the minute or so that we have left, Alex? What was the pressure that was brought to bear that you think actually called the groups to pull this?
Well, I know of 3 organizations that we've worked with in the past that were very, very opposed to this. You have Team Protect Your Children, a wonderful organization led by a wonderful woman of God who has rallied Christians and conservatives all across the state to pray and to oppose these types of things. You had the Morris Patriots, a conservative group in northern New Jersey, and then you had the Family Policy Alliance, which also put out a big statement urging people to contact their legislators about this. And I'm sure there was more. Those are just the ones that we happen to know of. But there was a lot of opposition. There were a lot of phone calls being made. But as you mentioned, this is not dead yet. They will be back with this abomination.
Yeah, you can't kill this stuff. It will come back. The undead will live. On the other side of the break, Alex, let's talk more broadly about the implications of this for the country. Back again with Alex Newman and continuing our conversation about New Jersey's decision, pending decision that has now been put on hold. The New Jersey legislature was considering not letting school districts purchase any books at all for any subject, unless those books had been approved by LGBTQ activists. Talk about broader trends in the country with this stuff, Alex. I mean, we're getting to the point now where education has nothing to do with subject stuff, school, learning, but it really is nothing more than a chance for all of these special interest groups to get their fingers and their dirty little ideas all over your kids.
That's exactly right, Duke. And, New Jersey is just the tip of the iceberg. This kind of nonsense is happening all over the country. And you can tell how fraudulent it is, right? The monikers, the terminology that they use, diversity and inclusivity, right? Everything's got to be inclusive. That is the mantra. And in fact, this bill specifically states that. So do all the other initiatives that talk about this. And yet, if you stop to think about it for one moment, if you were really truly being inclusive, you would take into consideration the 70% plus of American adults who consider themselves Christian, who pay the taxes to fund all this nonsense. You'd take into account the Jewish community, maybe a couple percent of the United States. You take into account the Muslim community, maybe 1%. And yet all of these groups, with a few fringe exceptions that just ignore the Bible and do whatever they feel like it, would say, wait a minute, why are we encouraging children to normalize the idea that they can chop off their private parts and that they should be normalizing homosexuality? So they're not really being inclusive. In fact, they're being the opposite of inclusive. They are excluding the majority of the population from these textbooks, from these texts, from these bills, and all the rest of it. So even by their own metrics, even by their own standards, they are doing the opposite of what they claim to be doing. And yet they have dumbed down the population to such an extent that a lot of these school board members, a lot of these activists who think they're pushing inclusivity don't even recognize the cognitive dissonance going on here. It truly is a frightening thing, dude.
Well, they're not confused. They know exactly what they're doing. They know that what they mean by inclusion, this is clear, classic Orwellian double speak. When they say inclusion, they mean we're excluding you. All right, that's what they mean. But this even has graver consequences inside the classroom. We've seen this too across the country. Let's separate the ideology that they want to put in the textbooks from actual, let's say, math, right? How many times have we heard over the last couple of years that by definition math is white supremacist, the empirical method, scientific method is white supremacy, geometry, all of the higher math of Western culture discriminates against non-Western people. We've heard that a time and again, and it comes even more specific. If inclusivity is the purpose of math, then by definition, there can't be just one right answer. 2 + 2 = 4 is not inclusive to the kid who thinks it's 5, to the kid who thinks it's 3. And a decade ago, when you and I were fighting this on the Common Core Trail and tried to show moms and dads the early evidence of this, they got it. People got upset about this. And it's all still here. And by definition, if inclusivity is the primary thing that guides you as in a school or an educator or a textbook company, then there is no such thing as truth other than the political slant that is being put upon these books by the progressive left.
Yeah, it truly is a tragedy unfolding right before our eyes. The consequences will be absolutely devastating to the future of our nation. But there is some good news. Duke, we've talked about this in recent months. The population of homeschool families in America has doubled just since this pandemic. I think a big part of it is families are fleeing exactly this kind of idiocy. They don't want their children indoctrinated with these absurdities. And we also have good news in that FreedomProject Academy is right now developing a fantastic math curriculum that will actually teach children math without all the LGBT propaganda. Imagine that. Next, we'll be doing a history curriculum, right? So there are going to be resources. The government school brainwash monopoly has really left a giant opening in the marketplace here for people who are willing and able to offer legitimate educational alternatives. So, I encourage everybody, get out of the indoctrination system. Get your children out of these absurd, ridiculous indoctrination centers and get them into the safe sanctuary of a good homeschool or a Freedom Project Academy or a Christian school somewhere. Find some alternative because the well-being, the future of your children depends on it.
Yeah, and over the last 4 years, The worst of it has been held back by a Trump administration Department of Education. Get ready for the deluge. Remember the King Louis of France who said, after me, après moi le deluge. When I'm gone, it's going to really hit the fan. Things are going to get really worse in public school education. Hey guys, most of you know that our little Dr. Duke show is being hidden and demonetized by the creepy crawlers at YouTube and Facebook. Sadly, this impacts our long-term ability to produce the kind of quality show that you've gotten used to. So we've decided to tackle the problem by launching our own new Patriot Club. Yes, for 99 tax-deductible dollars once a year, 99, you will not only keep our show going, but we'll ship you this fabulous stainless steel tumbler, etched with the American flag and the words, "Freedom never tasted so good." Visit patriotclub.us and become a Patriot member today. That's patriotclub.us to support our show and to drink from the font of freedom.